Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful March the 9th, 2020. Guado Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I seem lost in time. I mean, all of a sudden somebody changed the time on me on the weekend. Seems like I lost the day when they did that. But back when I was a kid during the Ford administration, you know, they would change it back 2 hours instead of 1 hour. So, I mean, I guess the 1 hour, and, you know, somebody has to pay me some overtime, I guess.
Somebody got to pay some overtime. It's all fair in love and war. I'm glad they said, you know, I guess you spring forward and you fall back, but I'm glad it's just the hour and not the year, because I thought it was 2021. I guess I got to understand what daylight saving time means. It's all fair in love and war. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. I want to say that Big C Sports is powered by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. Launching the real estate listing show in the spring of 2020. Really looking forward to that. Having 100 real estate brokers having the opportunity to list their properties on TV, and that makes you stand out compared to the brokers that don't have that opportunity. Big C, I know with everything going on today in this world of just being alert and not having our head in the sand, I want to make sure we pay homage to our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced at helping veterans and their loved ones get help. It's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, Charlton, it's all of a sudden we have a country and a world that's full of awareness with this coronavirus, as horrific as it is, and has afflicted thousands and thousands of people, and even more of thousands in America that, you know, our government refused to test because they don't want to let people know that they dropped the ball behind this situation, just like they've dropped the ball on our veterans in this country. As America and the world is now concerned about health and welfare because of this coronavirus, think about our veterans who have gone through this every day and live this every day. Not the coronavirus, but they live in poverty and without shelter and without substance, Charlton. So many of them have reverted to suicide, and the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is a way, hopefully, to stem the tide. But just like we can't get testing kits in America to see where Americans are health-wise, our veterans can't get cell phones, which the government should provide for them, Charlton. So we have to find a way to get them into the communication, the modern technology world, where they have access to help, where they can get someone that they can talk to, Charlton, and hopefully talk them off the deep end, where many of them have resorted to suicide, as well as many of our young people in America.
That's very well said. That's why I love giving out this crisis line. It's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. I love being a part of that PSA. Everybody has something that we got to contribute in this lifetime. Some people call it legacy. We want to be known for something And some people, I just realized, don't laugh at me, but I was watching some things, over the weekend about the royal family. Like, everybody has their own way of living, but nobody's royal, Big C. We're all from the same tribe, Big C. And I really appreciate it, the fact that we can talk about so many things. I will say that I love the fact that we started doing something about 5 years ago, and it doesn't mean that we're any better than anybody else, but we were prescient enough to know that sports and politics, it does mix. There are a lot of dumb guys that had a lot of pushback and even told me personally, I can't believe you're not just reading scores. And I just said, well, our show is not for dumb people. That's not being insulting to dumb people. All it means is if you don't read, some things I'm dumb at because I don't read about it. But if I can chastise myself, I can also chastise other people. I want to just take the time as we get into this talk, how Northern California, Big C, Governor Gavin Newsom, obviously with the help of the White House, they've actually closed some of the largest school districts in California and canceled some of the high school basketball tournament games and other venues because of Corona. And they want to make sure that they're on top of it as much as possible. But we've always been talking like that. I still hear some of the dumb radio stations. They don't even talk like there's a national crisis right now, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, and our government has been the same way. When we think about the White House, Charlton, how they've been slow in response to this epic disease that we have going on in America and in the world. The president saying, well, as soon as it gets warm, it's going to go away. So if it doesn't get warm right away, how many people will be infected and unfortunately die from this disease, Charlton, that has affected so many thousands of people?
Yeah.
But as people want to sit around and say sports, well, we talked about it over a week ago, Charlton, that sports was going to be affected by this, Charlton.
Yeah.
And we've seen this worldwide, how sports has been affected by this coronavirus, Charlton, where, the NBA is talking about players don't handshake. Well, how can you say don't handshake when there's all this sweat and body contact that goes on in the game, hand checking and all of those things. So a handshake is the least thing that you should be concerned about if you're a basketball league or association. Already we've seen where there's some teams that have stopped playing basketball, Charlton, that they're not going to travel and go to tournaments where their team would be allowed to play in.
Yeah.
And there's also talk about banning fans from arena. We've seen it in Europe. That has occurred already. But as a sports station wants to say, well, the score of this game and he had X amount of points, we already know that.
Yeah.
But, life is more important than sports. Life is what creates sports.
Yeah.
And if you don't have fans, is what the players play for. They play for fans and they play for each other.
Yeah.
But the exuberance that you get as a player is hearing the cheer and the roar from the crowd. If that roar is not available, then you're just going to practice. And I don't see players wanting to participate.
Yeah, I think part of that is just if you tell the fans that they can't come in, are the players guinea pigs? Well, if they think there's a virus in an arena that's stringent enough to have people stay away, then why are the players to say, well, why am I walking into that same arena? Whatever they got to use to clear things out. I think, and I do want to just appreciate Vice President Mike Pence. I mean, everybody has their own thoughts, but I don't want to just be a guy that tells somebody who won a game. He said go to coronavirus.gov. That's Vice President Mike Pence. So people can Google, Big C, what's going on. Now, I juxtapose that to last week. POTUS said it was a Democratic stunt to try to help change the election, but I really appreciate Vice President Pence coming out.
I want to step in on Mike Pence, Charlton.
Yeah.
You got to remember the SARS virus that went on in the United States as well as AIDS.
Yeah.
Mike Pence was governor of Indiana during that time, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he fought against testing for SARS virus and AIDS. He said it was an abomination against God, and those people did not deserve the medical attention that they actually should have gotten.
Wow.
So when I look at Mike Pence, I look at a two-faced individual who's talking out of the side of his neck.
Yeah.
Right now he's doing photo ops for stunning for the press, Charlton, because this is an individual who turned his back on the state of Indiana when he was the governor.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of people, they do what they got to do. Just like Biden, the African-American community is carrying Biden in the elections, and he said that busing should be a states' rights when the states were saying we don't want to bus those black kids with the white kids, and now the black folks that don't read, they just want to go and vote for them. I mean, but people change with the times, and Everybody has a right to do that. But I just wanted to make sure that I didn't want to have my head in the sand when it comes to this. I also want to just applaud because I want to do my part. Because some people they don't read, Big C. It was the Jerome Adams, United States Surgeon General, happened to be African American, and he was telling people also a lot of young people may not be at risk as much as elder people. People over there in their 70s above. So that's just a PSA to tell people to check on your loved ones. Make sure they're clean. Make sure their environment's clean, that they're washing their hands. And oftentimes, as people become elderly, we kind of forget that they need to hear from us. Mentally, they need that mental health also. I know we talk about coronavirus, but there's times you should just pick up the phone and reach out and touch somebody. So I really appreciate the Attorney General, actually the U.S. Surgeon General, Jerome Adams, having that comment too. And just a couple, does that make any sense, Pixie? Don't just wait until there's some national calamity before you reach out and check on people you love. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if this is what it takes for you to reach out and touch someone, then you're a very empty person. If you're worried about a world health crisis before you decide that you want to stay in touch with family members, it doesn't make a difference at that point.
Yeah, well, we don't
understand that it's shallow.
Yeah, well, a lot of people have shallow things going on in life too. There was Dr. Birx and also Dr. Fauci. They established protocol that came from Australia to keep all Americans safe. I just want to do my part. I don't assume that everybody reads as much as I do, and maybe I could read even more, but I do appreciate that some common sense approaches are coming out to help people get over whatever anxiety they may be dealing with. But when you have a national school district, one of the largest in the United States of America, they closed down, and that's in Northern California, and I just wanted to make sure I did my part. Also, I know that, again, the talk about it being the political thing that the Democrats that came up with, that POTUS ignorantly spoke about. Italy, 60 million people are on lockdown because of coronavirus. 60 million? Is that a political stunt, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, this is the president saying everything that he can because he's unaware, Charlton. When you're unintelligent about world crisis and you've only concerned yourself about money and making yourself look good, this shows his emptiness, his separation between he and the American public that we've known all along.
Yeah.
And now when you have a commander-in-chief who should be the consoler-in-chief and the person who is the most salient when it comes to understanding and explaining to the public where things are. I saw him the other day at the CDC on news, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he was comparing the coronavirus test kits to this letter from Ukraine in his transcript, saying it was perfect. And yet you can't even get the test out. So if you can't get the test out, that meant that you didn't put out the right transcript from the Ukrainian transcript.
Yeah.
So here is an individual, Charlton, that when Americans listening to him, and I saw him again today when he landed down in Orlando.
Yeah.
And they let several people out on the tarmac. Trust me, no one gets out on the tarmac at an airport unless you've been vetted and you've been brought out there through security.
Yeah.
It was a photo op to try to make him look good that he was dealing with the public, Charlton. These are people that they brought in. You think that everybody who has flown, when you go through TSA at the airport, they do everything but body cavity search.
They check everything.
And yet these people are going to get out on a tarmac where the president of the United States is. I mean, here it is. You're trying to make yourself look good in the public eye, playing a stunt on everybody.
Well, how does that Affordable Care Act look right now, Obamacare? How does Obamacare look right now to POTUS? There were 4 congressmen, Big C, that were self-quarantined after contact with a coronavirus patient, and one actually flew on Air Force One. I believe that's the plane that POTUS flies on, so POTUS actually came in contact. I wonder if he's really going to be in a hurry to try to strip away Obamacare, because it's a really serious issue. And until it starts...
It would be real interesting, Charlton, when he's doing his rallies now, that he's going to get rid of Obamacare and go to places that's been afflicted by this coronavirus. I'm going to strip away Obamacare. In a couple of years, I'm going to come up with something. But don't worry about it. You don't need health care in these troubled times in America and in the world.
It's amazing. So many reporters were asking President Trump. Of course, he wouldn't take any questions. Here's the commander-in-chief that tells everybody that we're supposed to be, safe. The economy's doing great. Like, people have died, and, the economy's great. And then he wouldn't even take any questions. I just want to add on to something here, because sports and politics, when the guy said it doesn't mix, that's just for dumb people. And I mean saying that because people should read, and I include myself in that too. I got to read more. Public is barred from the 2020 Olympic flame lighting in Greece. I remember one of the most touching Olympic flame lightings. It happened down in Georgia. I believe it was Muhammad Ali. He was suffering from Parkinson's, but he had muscled the courage to carry the Olympic torch. And as he was trying to light the Olympic torch, he was shaking. His hand was shaking. His body was shaking. But there's something about that showed everybody in the universe, you don't have to be in perfect health to still believe in that spirit of like the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, whatever it is that the Olympics can do to bring people together from all over the world for sports where they won't get together for politics, they won't get together for religion, but there's something about sports that will bring every country on this planet together. Well, now Athens, Greece, they're saying spectators will be kept away from the Olympic flame lighting. Juxtapose that to Muhammad Ali, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is the awareness that the world is coming to, Charlton. And, you know, I talked about it a few weeks ago. Would the Olympics consider banning the Olympics, canceling it because of this world epic outbreak, Charlton? And, you know, now that they've banned people from attending the torch lighting ceremonies as the flame is taken across the world, Charlton, you have to think about all these people in Japan.
Yeah.
And that's where the Olympics is going to be. Today, the Japanese professional league has delayed the start of their season.
Really?
So when you think about that, here's the Professional Baseball League in Japan has delayed the start of their season. And this is where the Olympics is going to be.
Yeah.
So as we look at this, Charlton, the world is starting to understand the gravity in sports and economics, what this coronavirus is doing.
Yeah, and I just feel like we have I want to make sure that whenever somebody hears Big C Sports, and I know that we have a lot of platforms that are on, I want to be vetted by saying Google what we say. This is not something we want to make up. This is not our opinion. I mean, my opinion is based on what I read. You could read the same book, have a different opinion. So I want people to understand that most sports stations, they're just going to dumb you down. Like, they think you're stupid. Like, they don't think you want to do anything but play in the sand and watch people run up and down the court. But I really I implore people to just Google, read whatever you got to read to make sure that your loved ones are safe. Because not everybody's going to be affected by this, but communities will be touched by it. But you still don't want to be ignorant as you're watching to see who won a game. I want to just change gears just a little bit. There was an American athlete that was cleared of doping in the contaminated beef case. That was by the Associated Press, and this was in Lausanne, Switzerland, Big C, the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Confirmed. You know how people say sports and politics don't mix? The Court of Arbitration for Sports confirmed Monday, that's today, it has overturned a 4-year ban imposed by an American long jumper, Jerian Lawson, for a positive doping test caused by eating beef containing steroids. A lot of athletes eat a lot of meat. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, all beef contains steroids, Charlton, and depending on what part of the world that you're in, you're going to have a highly contaminated beef, from human growth hormones that they put in beef. You're trying to increase production. Canelo Alvarez has tested positive for beef.
Yeah.
That he's eaten and been disqualified from a fight.
Yeah, and see, that's so important. I know I recall, Big C, like steroids, it can be used in the United States to promote the growth of beef and cattle, yet it's banned in farming in the European Union. So that's something, too, that you just brought up, because I guess not just fighters, but athletes from all over the world, they travel now, especially when you get into boxing and MMA, or even with the Olympics coming up now. You're not set in your own city or in your own country. People go in and out of different boundaries, and you got to know what you put into your body. But I know, and you can maybe attest to this, a lot of athletes when playing sports, especially football players, they're told to eat a lot of chicken and a lot of beef because it does something to help you get bigger, stronger, and faster, along with whatever other nutrients they're having you put in your body. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, protein is the main substance for any athlete, Charlton. It fuels the muscles and it helps growth. And so you consume a lot of protein and carbohydrates depending on the sport and the time that you're participating.
Yeah.
But the protein that you consume helps the muscles grow and replenish themselves. So when we look at beef, and everybody now is talking about natural beef and natural products, no hormones and things like that, Charlton. But, for society and production to produce the amount of supplements that the world needs, you have to do things. So you have to alter whatever you're growing, Charlton, with antibiotics and other substances to keep it healthy for just the general public and mass production.
Well, this steroid that he tested positive for, is called Trenbolone, is formed as a part of a steroid mixture known as the Duchess cocktail. It was developed in all places, Big C, Russia, and used by its athletes ahead of the 2014 Winter Olympics in Sochi. The 25-year-old Lawson last competed in July 2018 at a Diamond League event in London, England, where he took silver at the previous year's World Olympics, and the world's medal, and he placed fourth in the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Olympics. While suspended by the World Athletics, Lawson missed the 2019 season, including the World Championship in Qatar. So with athletes that travel abroad and they go around the world, you got to make sure that whatever you put in your body, not making light of this, that was it Maria Sharapova? She had tested positive for some type of juice she was taking. Now, maybe where she came from, or maybe where she got her training from, and whatever advice she got, maybe it was legal in their country, but not in the United States, Big C. Lance Armstrong, too. There's a lot of baseball players that have been accused of different things. Even Barry Bonds is saying, please, let me in the Hall of Fame. I got 2 more years to get in, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when we look at human growth hormones, steroids, and plenty of things, Charlton, in the 70s and 80s, steroid use was rampant. Everybody turned their back on it. And you could see the players, regardless of the sport, that you knew were on it. And everyone just turned a blind eye. Leagues have turned a blind eye to steroid use, Charlton, because they were trying to improve the quality of the product on the playing field. And by improving the quality of the product, that means you brought in more fans. You made the sport more interesting. So steroids have always been a part of athletics. As we've gotten more and more advanced in technology, doping has become more and more advanced. They've found ways. They have guys who dedicate their lives to find ways to beat the system, Charlton. So doping is never going to stop in sports. It's just a matter of how sophisticated you want to be and how much money you want to spend to cover up what you're doing to get an advantage.
Yeah, and that's something that I know I've learned a long time ago. I just know so many athletes over the years. They were doing something, especially when I was in college. They were just sharing needles, doing what they had to do to get bigger, stronger, and faster. And some got the chance to play in the NFL, and others did not. The majority did not. But I want to swing this ball back across the court as we're talking about sports and athletics, Big C, and also we could say even politics. Our science, does sports and science mix? Well, think about this. The Pac-12, and I applaud them because the University of Washington, they've canceled some classes and making people go online. Well, something's hit in your own backyard because Stanford University on Friday, they've also followed the same protocol that the University of Washington has implemented, and they've moved classes online for the final 2 weeks of the winter quarter. Stanford also said that large events would be canceled or adjusted. The University of California, USC, said Friday that it would conduct lectures and seminars online rather than in classrooms for 3 days next week, as a test should be forced to suspend in-person contact with other individuals. There's also, high schools over in San Francisco Bay Area. So again, this comes juxtaposed to POTUS when he could have gotten ahead of this, saying it's a Democratic ploy. And some knuckleheads on Fox News laughed, Big C. They thought it was funny that he said that. Now they all look pretty ignorant, and I just thought that was amazing. Your thoughts on Stanford University, also University of Washington, USC, that's pretty much from Southern California to the Northern Washington, Big C, that are doing something to be proactive, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I give kudos to Mayor Cuomo of New York, Charlton, who took the stance first.
Yeah.
And he did this last week when he shut down schools, Charlton, in New York. You're talking about the most populated state in the country and the most populated city, New York, that the mayor took the precedence to say, hey, the need of the people and the welfare of the people come first.
Yeah.
We need to find out that all of these institutions are safe. I commend the Pac-12 on doing the same thing, But Mayor Cuomo in New York took the lead last week when he started shutting down school districts because he's more concerned about the health of the kids than some political plight.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that too. We're going to come back on our second half and run down sports, and if it's applicable, I also want to keep just talking about some things that happen with coronavirus because that's so important. And again, I told you I'm here in Northern California, Big C, and you have here in the Bay Area, it's the real scenic cruise ship coming from under the Golden Gate Bridge that I've sailed under many times that was being quarantined in Northern California. So they've let some passengers get off today, and they're running through whatever protocol they have to run through to make sure that people are safe. But that 14-day, quarantine, they're going to fly people out to Canada or back to Europe, wherever they were coming off of that cruise ship. The Golden Gate Bridge is one of the eighth wonders of the world, and it shows that this is a global thing. It's not something that's a political stunt. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, for Fox News and the president to say this was a political stunt, and the reason the president said that because he was unaware.
Yeah.
He lacked the knowledge of understanding what this epidemic meant to the world and even to the United States.
Yeah.
And he's more concerned of talking about that he beat impeachment in the Congress, and everybody knew that the Congress wasn't going to vote for it. But you got to also look, this is the same guy who wanted to get rid of Obamacare.
Yeah.
This is the same Congress that wanted to get rid of Obamacare.
Yeah.
To tell people that they did not need affordable health insurance. Now, I wonder what everyone's stance is now that's in the Republican Party saying that Obamacare was a bad thing and the insurance companies are out there talking about they didn't want it because they were forced to insure people.
Wow.
Are Americans going to want to say, let's extend Obamacare now, especially the Republicans?
That's
because
good.
Those 35 million people that's on the system, Charlton, I know today that they're all saying, no, there's no way. And people that are not on the system are saying, I wish I got on it.
Isn't that amazing? I love the fact that you brought that up, Big C. I'm going to take what's called the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. When we come back, we're going to talk more sports. We're going to talk more politics and how you, too, can keep your head out of the sand and stay informed. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, we're back from the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast Television. You can follow Big C Sports on Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really looking forward to launching the real estate listing channel that's already up in some places around the country, and that's by the spring of 2020. The goal is just to get 100 real estate brokers who understand the power of television and start putting your listings on TV. You will stand out from the brokers that do not even know that their TV is available to show their listings. So really looking forward to being a part of that with the Big C team. We just came, well, right now we're still in it. We're in the midst of this political debate and this climate where we have, whether on the Democratic side, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders running for office. But I want to say to all the women in the universe that Sunday was International Women's Day, and thousands marched and celebrated women to demand equality. And I mean, it's so important, whether it's the Me Too movement, whether it's African American women who really championed the civil rights movement. I know people know most notably Rosa Parks, we can see. But it's something, too, that I want to ask you. And maybe we're not even qualified to ask this question because we're both male. But as people of color, we've oftentimes been the vanguard for societal change and political change. Well, Sunday was International Women's Day. An acknowledgement of every grandmother, mother, wife, sister, daughter. Big C, thousands marched to demand equality. Now, we have women who make up the majority of the United States electorate. However, and some people might get mad by saying this, women did not pejoratively vote for women. They had a chance. I know the Me Too movement, people give a rousing applause to Oprah Winfrey in Hollywood. When we have the Me Too movement, people stand up and say, it happened to me too, and no more. Well, women chose to ignore Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Kamala Harris, Kristen Gillibrand, Marianne Williamson. They did not even make it to the primaries. They voted for two old white guys, Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, And women always, just like, other people, other groups, they say, well, how can we be heard? They wouldn't even support their own gender. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, it's about getting the information out and delivering a message. You can have a woman running. I mean, we had a woman run for president the last time around. She got the majority of the vote. She still could not win the Oval Office. So I think a lot of women were disenchanted by that, Charlton, saying regardless of who we vote for, it's still going to come down to these old white men who they select.
What message do we have? I know you have a daughter. I have a daughter, of course. We have mothers and and sisters. I want to just get your thoughts, and because I think it's worth repeating, because I think we may be the only show that every single time we're on the air, we don't just hope and pray. We say to people, there's no excuse for domestic violence against men or women. We don't just do it on a certain year. We don't do it on a certain day. Hey, it's Friday. Let's do it on Friday. We do it every day, because if we can stop that garbage, maybe it will protect somebody we love. So what message could we give to women? Because I've been told by other women, and again, I don't think I'm qualified to speak on it, but hey, it's my opinion. I've been told by other women that women are catty and will pull each other down, and would rather see two old white men, that they would rather be intellectually, I guess, ancillary to what those white men say is best for them. We have, like, POTUS wants to strip away a woman's right to choose. I mean, we have so Roe v. Wade. So what is it about women when they have a similar moment to stand up, and you have so many qualified candidates, we end up with two old white guys that some people say maybe are too old? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, until you put an age limit on somebody who can run for president, but you also got to look at the makeup of these women in society and where they came from, who reared them, the lifestyle that they had from children to adulthood. Yep. What they heard and what they were exposed to. I mean, it's very easy to say and say that women should do this and make this choice.
Yeah.
But you have to also look at someone's upbringing and from childhood through adulthood and what their home life was about, what they heard and what they believe in. They just didn't change all of a sudden once they become an adult, because they were that foundation was laid in their lifestyle on how they should be and what they should become.
Yeah. Well, I always encourage the women in my life to just read as much as you can. I don't know the answer to everything, but I love making sure that people know.
You look at it from this perspective, Charlton. You see women, we talk about no abuse.
Yeah.
You see women in abusive situations all the time in America, every day.
Yeah.
And people say, why don't they walk away?
Yeah.
We don't know what got them into that situation or why they stay in it. But a lot of times it comes from childhood. They've witnessed it. And this is what they know. This is how their life was with their parents growing up. So when they got into a relationship, this is what was to be expected. And when it occurred, they didn't see it as being anything different. They used excuses. Well, I'm staying for the children.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do. I don't know where I'll go. But this is what human nature is. Everyone is not strong. Everyone is not weak. But society has created this, Charlton, where it's become acceptable.
Yeah, and I don't know the man that would stand by and watch his daughter be beaten up by another man. But I'm sure there are people that say it's okay, just be strong. I don't even understand the psychology of that.
But think about the men, Charlton, that beat their wives in front of their daughter, and the daughter saw that was acceptable and went on into an abusive relationship because that's what she do in life.
Yeah.
We don't know everyone's background, why they get to the point that it is. When we see people commit crimes in America, why do they commit crimes? And they come from the most perfect of households. We see athletes all the time commit crimes. Here guys with a great income, yet they're out committing crimes.
Yep.
Why do they do that? We don't know the chemical imbalance of anybody.
That's very well said, Big C. And I guess that crisis hotline that we give out can be used for people in any situation, as well as not just military veterans. I want to keep this in California just for the moment, because that's where I live. I know you're 3,000 miles away. It's amazing. Before I even bring up what I'm going to bring up, we're 3,000 miles away primarily. I know your boat, you kind of end up wherever your boat takes you, Big C, so sometimes you might be 2,000 miles away, other times you might be 3,000 miles away. But I really appreciate the fact that we can get on the airwaves and share our opinion and elucidate on subjects that are not just how big and tall somebody is. I really do believe it is a sea change in the world of sports broadcasting. I'm not doing that just to pat myself on the back or pat you on the back. But I did hear some people that I respect in media for many, many moons now actually just stepping outside of that little scared circle they're inside of and they were actually talking about some of the things that we're talking about too. Indian Wells, California, which is inland Southern California down in the Palm Springs area, well, they canceled the tennis tournament due to the coronavirus outbreak, and public health officials in California declared an emergency in the area where one of the tennis signatures, would be held. I think that's so important. And this is what I want to say too, because again, when sports and politics don't mix, if you're a dumb person, well, it seems to be that the sports world, as well as the school districts, Big C, they're on top of this. I'm not saying that sports is everything, but when I look at the Pac-10 and you have Washington University, you have USC and other schools, and they're putting in line, having people test online as opposed to congregating around classes. There's other universities that are canceling events. They're taking the public health concern, I think, more serious than some dumb radio stations that don't even understand it. So I applaud what we've been doing for 5 years. Indian Wells, that's a big statement, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, not only Indian Wells, Charlton, but the NBA is going to have a conference call between all the owners about what path do they take next as far as addressing this coronavirus issue. Are they going to be more concerned and serious about playing in empty arenas, or are they going to even look at canceling part of the rest of the season, Charlton? So, I mean, as we look at the NBA, we look at the NCAA that has already canceled some tournament games, Charlton, teams at universities are not attending. We're looking at March Madness is coming up.
Yeah.
One of the biggest sporting events in America, where you're going to expose some 65, 68 college teams to each other over the course of a couple-week span.
Yeah.
And not only that, you're going to expose hundreds of thousands of fans to each other in various arenas around the country. And we know that one of the arenas is out there in, I believe, in Spokane, Washington,
yeah.
Charlton, out there that, they're going to be hosting one of the tournament rounds, which is the state that has the most afflictions in the United States.
Yeah.
So as we look at these things coming up where you have mass gatherings of people, we've seen European leagues of soccer cancel games, cancel fan attendance in stadiums. So, I mean, this is a serious issue. We've seen where the stock market is tanked.
Yeah.
So if you're talking about the stock market tanking and billions of dollars are falling by the wayside to citizens in America and around the world, that, Trump is more concerned about the stock market than he is about the health of individuals in this country.
Yeah, the Dow Jones has its biggest one-day drop in the history of the United States of America, and POTUS says the economy is doing great. Like, who is he talking to? Are really people that...
But think about this. Why in the hell are you talking about the economy? We're talking about a health crisis.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the economy doing great. That means that somebody who is void of sensibility and caring about human life, that he's only concerned about the dollar sign. Think about the dollar sign when you talk about a health epidemic and how many billions of dollars it's going to cost the American taxpayer trying to fight this. And this guy is talking about the stock market, not the health and welfare of American citizens.
And then after he got on, then you had Vice President Mike Pence say, well, it mostly affects elderly people. Well, they don't matter. I think POTUS is considered elderly, Big C. It just, to me, it's like, what in the world is going on with our society where we have a person in charge that really is unqualified? I mean, he can really thank Vladimir Putin for it. Whatever people want to say, they can Google how he got elected. But for people, I mean, I have elderly people in my family too. And when I hear someone say everything's great, we don't even have the biggest drop in the history of the Dow Jones.
I'm a senior citizen, okay?
Yeah.
I'm a senior citizen, so I'm in that crisis area that they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it concerns me because, we don't know what to expect. We can't get tested. We were told that there were going to be 1 million test kits available on Friday.
Right.
Then we were told that they weren't available. We were told again that there was going to be 1.5 million test kits available here on Monday. They're not available. So when are the test kits going to be available? And they say your doctor has to request it. You just can't request it. The story is changing by the minute as the health officials are trying to get a grasp on what's going on.
Yeah.
But the president is not assuring anybody because he's saying everything's perfect. The test kits are beautiful.
Yeah.
Just like the letter, just like the phone call. It's perfect. And if it's perfect, why can't people get accessibility to it? Not only that, we're talking about a vaccine.
Yeah.
The talk of a vaccine is somewhere between 15 and 18 months away. We're talking 15 to 18 months, a year and a half for a vaccine being available.
Yeah.
So you're talking about you can't get tested and a vaccine is going to be a year and a half away?
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting how, and again, a reporter asked him, and I wish other programs would do this, but that's their choice. If they want dumb audience, that's fine too. But a reporter asked, had the president been tested? Wouldn't it be a similar moment, Big C? And you're a big advocate of this because you talk about health care, and I really appreciate how you say a lot of the states down south, they still have the Jim Crow in effect because of the minimum wages. I mean, they don't have the national standard for minimum wages. But when you have a president, why wouldn't you get tested, President Trump, and let the whole world know that you're okay or that you're not okay? Because you're telling people, don't worry about it. The stock market's doing great as people in Washington have passed away. And, I mean, other parts of the country, too. There's been over 700 outbreaks now in the United States
look
alone.
Look at this, Charlton. You've talked about the cruise ship industry.
Yeah.
Out there in California where you got the ships coming in.
Yeah.
You think about the airline industry that is plummeting. You got talking about hundreds of people in an airtight confinement.
That's right.
Sitting on top of each other in these limited space airplanes. And so if you got one person on there, you got everyone on that plane exposed because you're breathing the same air.
Yeah.
Look at hotel industry. As the shipping industry is going to go down, the airline industry is going to go down. Think about the hotel industry is going to be affected. What about restaurants, Charlton? People are going to stop going out to restaurants and eat because you don't know who's dealing with your food.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the economic crisis that is about to hit America, we've talked about sporting venues, people not going to sporting venues. How open are you now to go to a restaurant and sit down and eat, to go through a drive-through window, and you're not knowing the health condition of the person who is handling your food? So when we talk about the economic crisis that is getting ready to hit America, it's not the sporting events. It's the everyday life in America. Gatherings of large people where they go, you close down school districts. What's the next thing after closing down school districts? You're going to close down large shopping malls, Charlton. You think about the Mall of America in Minneapolis. You know, the largest shopping mall in the world.
States,
and they talk about this stuff thrives in cold weather.
Yeah.
It's a destination point in America like Disneyland. You think about Asian Disney. It's closed down.
Closed.
Asian Disneyland has closed down. It is closed for business. What if you close up all the theme parks in America because of this? Think about all the people that are going to be out of work. You think about the economic strife within those communities. And as we talk about airlines, like I said, the hotel industry is going to suffer. The restaurant industry, the service industry as a whole in America, in the next month could suffer by 50%.
That's amazing. I heard Prince was saying it's okay to travel. They still want people to get on airplanes and travel. Even Air Force One has someone test positive for coronavirus. You can't get a more sterile airline than that, but POTUS will. Who knows what POTUS tests positive for, Big C? But it would be amazing for them to tell people it's okay to keep flying and taking cruises, even though you have people quarantined that just been quarantined in one of the largest cities in the United States of America. It's okay to get on a cruise ship. It's okay to keep flying. We don't know, but just hope and pray. Doesn't make any sense. I want to bring up something that you talked about, too, because you just said, and maybe it slipped my mind, the NCAA is actually, they're going to weigh using fewer tournament sites amid the coronavirus outbreak. What we just said, I think in Greece, they're not going to have the lighting of the Olympic torch where the public can see it, Big C. We know that they've had different tournaments, canceling, fans coming in to watching it. So who's going to be the czar of the NCAA that says what arena is safe, what arena is not safe? We just had some teams decide not to go up to the Seattle area. So what's the NCAA who's going to be the czar of that, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, we know that Mark Emmert's what he's all about. It's about the dollar, Charlton. And I understand this is tradition in America where you had the tournament, and this is a one-time event for a lot of players that are in it. And, I mean, you're really judging health versus money when it comes down to this. We don't know the total spread of the virus in America, and that's one of the reasons that the government refuses to do mass testing. We haven't had 10,000 people tested in America. Think about that. We have not had 10,000 people tested in America.
No.
And yet they're saying 1.5 million kits are available, but no one has access to them. They're saying that your doctor has to order it. You have to get to the doctor first. You try making a doctor appointment?
Yeah.
Hell, that takes 2 to 3 weeks.
It does.
Can I get in? No, you can't.
Yeah.
I tried making a dentist appointment today. I can't get in for another week.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about getting to a doctor, we don't know if the doctors are healthy. And I know I listened to one emergency room doctor on CNN last week.
Yeah.
He said he knows he's going to become infected with it.
Yeah.
Because his job is to treat the public.
Yeah.
And he can't turn his back on the public because there's some epidemic going on.
Yeah.
But he knows he's going to come in contact and eventually be infected. But he can't turn his back on what he took an oath to serve and protect the public, Joe.
Yeah, that's very true, because everybody said go to the doctor. Well, it's amazing how doctors make good money, obviously, but they do good work for the most part. But they're the ones that are in the eye of the storm, and I don't know the answer to that. I just try to stay in tune into the scientific community and not worry about what someone says politically inclined. And people, whether you hear what Big C says or what I say, we just ask you to Google it for yourself. Coronavirus.gov, that's what Vice President Mike Pence said to be a part of. But you did say he said that people who had the HIV virus were being punished by God when he was in Indiana. Big
and he was SARS. When he was the governor of Indiana, and this is what people have to understand about politicians, that when you're looking at Mike Pence right now, he's two-faced about what he is saying.
Yeah.
When he was governor of Indiana, he would not let the bill pass, and he would not sign it to promote the SARS and AIDS epidemic, Charlton, to have people get tested and provide the medication that they needed in the state of Indiana. He said it was an abomination of God, and let that deal with it. It took 2 years for the Senate fighting him, Charlton, in the state of Indiana to get that passed through. Wow. This is a guy who turned his back on the American citizens in the state of Indiana when he was the governor. So you're going to say you're going to put him as the front person? This is President Trump, who does not know anything about what's going on, and he put a guy who turned his back on the state population when he was the governor of Indiana in charge.
I thought that was very telling. You know, when you're the commander-in-chief and you brag about how tough you are and, you know, beat people over the head, you'll pay their legal bills, etc., and when been faced with the public, he walks away and lets the vice president do the talking. That's not the chief, commander-in-chief. That, to me, that doesn't make any sense. People need leadership. I want to just touch on a few more things in sports, and I want to throw this back over to you. We just had, going into the weekend, Big C, we were talking about the L.A. Lakers, how they had a huge weekend coming up. They had a game against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they also had a game coming up against the L.A. Clippers. And the L.A. Lakers beat the biggest challenge from the Eastern Conference, the Milwaukee Bucks, 113-103. LeBron James dropped 37 points. So much for a guy that they say is, what did they say about Ali? His toes are curly. He doesn't have that spring in his step anymore. It's like King James, when he met that young lion coming up the hill to challenge him, Big C, I think he still roared a little bit louder, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you know, they had a good run over the weekend where they were able to take care of the Bucks and the Clippers. But, you know, when you look at the playoffs last year, the Toronto Raptors won it all. They didn't win the East.
Yeah.
You know, they were not expected to be in the finals. And the Golden State Warriors were in the finals, and they beat supposedly the best team, the second best team in the NBA at that time, and defending champs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these games late in the season, yes, they mean something, and it secured the first playoff position for the Lakers for the first time in 6 years, and everybody in L.A. is goo-goo gaga about that. But it's what's going to happen down the stretch. And as I said in this game, yes, James performed. But Anthony Davis is a big concern of the Lakers because, once again, he disappeared in the fourth quarter over the weekend.
Yeah, he's got to get his game. He's got to get his giddy up going, Big C. Also on Sunday, the game of L.A. for the Battle of L.A., Big C. L.A. Lakers beat the Clippers by the score of 112-103. So the Battle of L.A., at least for this week, is won by the Lakers, but the Clippers still hold a series lead, 2-1, I believe, over that. They also have a makeup game that's going to happen later in the season. But it was great theater for the basketball world. I think people sometimes, we need something to, I don't say take your mind off of anything. That's important. But it's definitely good to have the chance to use sports again. Here we go again, Big C. When politics can get a little bit messy and people can't get along when it comes to religion, sometimes that thing that we call sports can make people feel a lot better about what's going on in their own lives. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, sports is always there, but sports right now is very controversial because of the coronavirus, Charlton. It's coming down to attendance. How are the players going to react, Charlton? I think that's the main thing that you have to look at. I mean, everyone's talking about the fans not attending, But the players are the ones exchanging body fluids all the time, Charlton. When you look at the sweat and the perspiration that's coming from basketball players, you know, these are the guys who are in physical contact with each other all throughout the contest.
Yeah.
And we're looking at baseball. It's coming up. I mean, they're in contact with each other, you know, whether they're stealing bases or at bat.
Or stealing signs.
And tennis matches back and forth with that ball. I mean, the sweat is dripping off your wrist down onto the ball.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all this contact is going on. We see the physical contact in the hockey games all the time.
Yep.
You see the sweat in the mask of the hockey players. So, as we look at this, Charlton, and I know they always talk about fans, what is going to become the threshold when it comes down to players? Where will the professional leagues and the collegiate leagues draw the line in health over money?
And that's a good question, because all we have to do is look at Europe. Look at Italy. 60 million people that have been closed off from participating in being in closed environments. I think the cathedrals, you know, religion is big all over the world, but the cathedrals were a lot of them were just closed. There was nobody there over the weekend. That's a telltale sign. I want to just touch on tonight's NBA schedule, Big C, and I'm glad you brought up.
Look at the state of Seattle, Charlton, and you know, the
state of Washington, Seattle.
You know, they're looking at canceling some tournament games. You look at the University of Washington, Charlton, canceling classes.
Yeah.
There's one of those XFL teams up in Seattle.
Yeah.
Think about that. And the fans that come to those games, as well as the players, Charlton, with all the perspiration that is going on between players in a football game.
Yeah.
So the XFL is in Washington, and every time there's a game up there, you got two teams in close battle proximity to each other,
right.
Physical contact, and perspiration flying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the health concerns are real, and that's what everybody needs to address.
That's a very good point. I forgot that they had a football team up there in the XFL, but we know it's a concern all over this country. In fact, all over the world, Big C. Over 100 countries have tested positive for the coronavirus. I just want to run down slightly tonight's NBA schedule, because they're not playing where they've turned the fans away, as far as I know. Charlotte Hornets, they're at the Atlanta Hawks. You have the defending NBA world champion Toronto Raptors. They're at a big game tonight at the Utah Jazz. Big C. Games are already underway. And then maybe the game of the night, even though Giannis is still having a hitch in his giddy up, Big C, the Milwaukee Bucks at the Denver Nuggets up there in Mile High. So it's a small schedule for NBA basketball, but definitely a lot of good basketball that's worth watching. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, every night is a game of the night, Charlton, in the NBA, especially when you're jockeying for a playoff position. It's about that you don't want to slip and you want to be as high a seed as you can.
Yeah, that's very true. So we look forward to just bringing as much as we can. Even LeBron James, if you mind everyone that he's still king, but he was asked a question, and he's just one person. He's not the Surgeon General of the United States of America, but he was asked the question that if the fans aren't able to go to NBA games, would you play? And he said no, because I play for the fans. But as a maybe even a more salient answer would be, if it's not healthy enough for fans, why is it healthy enough for athletes? I still don't get that part yet, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, he did answer that question. If you look at what he said, if the fans are not there, I'm not playing.
Yeah.
He answered the question without being direct. He said, if they're not there, then it's not healthy enough for us. I'm not playing.
Yeah. Well, maybe I didn't catch that part then, but I agree. If you walk into the stadium and they say we're quarantining the fans, but you guys come up here and dribble, that's all you guys are good for. Just entertain the people on TV. No, that doesn't make any sense. NFL player accuses the union leaders of bad faith in the CBA negotiation. Russell Okung, Big C, an outspoken opponent of the NFL's proposed collective bargaining agreement, he filed a complaint with the National Labor Relations Board just days before the players go to vote. They said sports and politics don't mix. How's he filing a complaint, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, everybody is not pleased with this. When you think about Oku and the amount of money that he makes, here's an offensive tackle that's making somewhere between $7 and $11 million a season.
Yeah.
Why would he want to play an extra game for $100,000? You have to think about, as I said, that 20% of the players who make 80% of the salary on teams are not inclined to want to play an extra game for free.
Yeah.
Technically, it's for free for them. All it is tax money.
Yep.
And so I understand the need of the players, of the mass amount of players to want to make that extra $100,000 because, you know, some of these players, they're getting a 200% increase in salary. when you look at it, if you're on the roster and you're making $500,000
Yeah.
for 16 games, and they're going to give you another $100,000 for playing one more game, that's the biggest payday that you're going to get in your pro career.
Yeah.
Why would you not take it?
Yeah.
And so this is what the established players who are making the millions of dollars are saying, is that it's not worth it for us.
Yeah.
And I understand their position. It's like anybody in any company in America. Why should I have to do more for less? And that's the same thing that the players who are not making the $1 million are saying.
Yeah.
I have to do more for less. I have
Yeah.
to do an equal amount for less than what you're making playing side by side with you.
Yep.
So this is a fight between the players and the owners. The owners are not going to want to open their books. So whenever you file a suit against the owners, they're more willing to come to the table to renegotiate other than go to court and have to show how much money they make.
Yeah, they definitely don't want to do that. You can make sure that they'll hide their books as long as possible because they're making a lot of money. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Spreaker.com, the two apps that I really love, and give it a try. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. Also launching a real estate listing channel in the spring of 2020. Already on the way in some markets. We'll be bringing our section to it in just a few more weeks, and really looking forward to that. Big C, I know when we talk about the conferences and the corona outbreak, there have been schools and from New York to California that have closed school districts. Not just a school, but his whole school district. That's elementary and high school. And you talked about, we talked earlier about the Olympic torch being closed off for the fans to watch that. So who's the guinea pig to light that torch? Also, Italy, over 60 million people that are being, quarantined in a sense by saying you can't have large gatherings anymore. So as we do this show, Big C, some tickets that have been punched for March Madness, the NCAA automatic bids, Utah State. They shocked San Diego State. You got Belmont. You have Winthrop, Bradley, Liberty. Some of the other conferences out there, the Southern Conference, Colonial Conference, Horizon Conference, Northeast Conference, the Summit Conference, West Coast Conference, Patriot Conference, the American East, the MEAC, the MAAC, the Big 12, the SWAC. You have the Big East. You have the MAC, the MAC Conference, the Big Sky, Conference USA, the ACC, the Southland, the Pac-12, the WAC Conference, the Big West, the Ivy League, the Atlantic 10, the SEC, the Sun Belt, the American Conference, and the Big Ten. Big C, what do we do with all these schools? And the talk of how to keep the fans safe, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, there's 180 conference games that are to be played, Charlton. And you think about the number of fans that are going to be exposed to each other and the number of players that are going to be exposed to each other. It comes down to the government, Charlton. I know they say sports and politics doesn't mix.
Oh, it mixes.
They don't mix, but it comes down to the government, Charlton, being more concerned about the health and welfare of its citizens than they are about the bottom line dollar.
Well, they can go to coronavirus.gov. That came out from Mike Pence, but if you look at what he's done in the past, he's changed.
You go to coronavirus.gov. You're not a doctor.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're telling people to go to a website. Why force the American public to go to a website? Why can't you give them the updated information on these news cycles that are on 24 hours a day?
Yeah.
Why are you forcing people? It's just like when we talk about our veterans not having access to a cellular device or electronic device.
Yeah.
Everyone in America, Charlton, does not have access to a computer. We might think so because we do. But when you think about the impoverished part of America, we talk about the homeless plight. You said the number of homeless people there in the Bay Area is the largest in America.
Yeah.
Think about those people. They have access to go to a computer and say, okay, let me go to corona.gov and check on it. I'm homeless trying to find some place to be warm and get some food in my belly, and I'm going to go find a computer where I can go look up coronavirus instead of trying to find myself something to eat. I mean, that's the stupidity of the government.
Yeah.
Telling the American citizens to go to a website and self-doctor yourself.
Yeah.
What's wrong with giving the information to all the news outlets The news outlets are public information sources, and even public radio is public information. They are governed by, they're actually owned by the public. They make a profit for themselves, but they're supposed to put out PSAs all day long.
Yeah.
Why isn't the information given to the American citizen instead of forcing the American citizen to go find it? That's like saying, go get yourself a testing kit. Where? Why can't they tell us?
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll find out more of Big C. Everybody try to stay abreast of as much information as possible. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we got a week before free agency starts in the NFL. And what's going to happen? You know, are they going to sign a black quarterback, or are they just going to sign quarterbacks once this free agency starts?
I'm sure they'll sign somebody, but show them the money. As back in the day, Jerry Maguire once said, you can get the money too every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, that's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.